Good morning. Today we look at Job 38 through 40. And Job and his three friends talked a lot to begin with, and then we had this fourth man, Elihu, show up. And now, chapter 38, God speaks to Job, and we assume that the others can hear as well. It's hard to know, but the Lord answered Job in the whirlwind. And, Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. And so the whirlwind, maybe symbolizes the activity of God. I mean, nobody can see God, but a whirlwind would get your attention, but he answers, and, he starts, who is this that darkens counsel by his words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man, and I will question you. And then look at the questions. Where were you when I formed the foundation of the earth? Who determined its measurements? Where were its bases sunk? Who shut the sea in? Who set its limits? Who said, here you shall come and no more? And in a way, it's, maybe a little tongue-in-cheek. It's a little bit of kind of a playful questioning. He knows where Job was. He knows all of these things, but like verse 12, have you commanded the morning since the days began, or caused its you can read this, I guess, in different manners. You could read it as God being angry, but it's so much nicer to read it as God kind of being a little bit playful, just kind of, reminding Job that he is mortal, that he wasn't there at the creation, that, God is God and Job isn't. And that's a reminder for each and every one of us, that, God is God and we're not. Verse 16, have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been opened to you? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. And it's, God just showing Job the difference between God and humanity. He says, where's the way to the dwelling of the light? I mean, that comes from the sun. We know that. Where is the place of darkness? Surely you know, for you were born then. Verse 21, I mean, this is, again, I think very sarcastic, Surely you know, for you were born then. The number of your days is great, I mean, Job was, who knows how old he was, but he definitely hadn't been around since the beginning of creation. And God is, kind of sarcastically saying, that to Job, for who are you? Your number of days are great, and in the large scope of things, I mean, the time that any one of us lives on this earth is really nothing. And then, have you entered the storehouses of the snow? Or have you seen the storehouses of the hay where I have reserved them? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, where the east wind comes from? I mean, where does the wind come from? We know that it's, a low pressure here and a high pressure there, and, the air rushes, but how do these things happen? Why are there low pressures and high pressures? Why isn't it all evened out? And it's a total mystery to me, for sure. He said, who cut a channel for the torrents of rain, a way for the thunderbolt? He's asking Job all of these questions to make Job think of, really, who am I to question God in so many ways? But yet to know through it all that, that God is there. I mean, verse 39 of chapter 38, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions when they crouch in their dens? Who provides the ravens when its young ones cry and wonder for the lack of food? Do you know where the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the deer? I mean, we aren't all knowing. We just can't keep track of it all, and we may know that, with cattle, with our domestic livestock, and with many of the wild animals as well, how long it takes from the beginning of pregnancy till the birth. But, I mean, we're not witnesses to all that. We didn't set any of that in motion. Verse 4, their young ones become strong and grow up in the open. They go forth and do not return. And And I remember reading verse 13 here, the ostrich's wings flap wildly through its pinions, lacking plumage. It leaves its eggs to the earth and lets them be warmed on the ground, forgetting that a foot may mash them, or, a wild animal may trample them. The ostrich just lays its eggs and lets them be. Not like a lot of other birds that will make a nest and set on them. We were down at our daughter's place, and they've got a hillside in their backyard, and up on the hillside there was a turtle laying eggs. And the neighbors and the kids were up there watching, and so now in 60 to 90 days, turtle, they may have a whole bunch of little baby turtles come running or walking down their slope, But who told this turtle to go live it there? I mean, there isn't any water for, a block and a half or two. I mean, there's water, but it's a ways from the water. And it's just like, the ostrich lays its eggs and, whatever happens to them, happens to them. The same with a turtle and, many other things too. I mean, like the turtles come out of the sea and lay their eggs up on the sands. And then, we know from history, about when these turtles are going to hatch, and there are people there to help guide a lot of those down to the sea, make sure they get there safely, keep them safe from predators. But, God is saying to them, how much is it that you don't know? He's pointing all of those things out, and talks about horses. Is your wisdom that the hawk soars and spreads its wings? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up wings and makes its nest? And, and then chapter 40 begins with God and the Lord said, shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? Anyone who argues with God must respond. And, Job has been pleading to God, asking, these questions. Why did this happen to me? I'm faultless, I'm blameless, I'm pure and holy. I haven't done these horrible sins and stuff. What have I done to deserve this? And so God says, you've been asking questions, you need to answer. So Job's answer, see, I am of small account. What shall I answer to you? I lay my hand on my mouth. I've spoken once, I will not answer. Twice, but will proceed no further. Job kind of, who am I to question what you do? And it's a kind of a realization for all of us, and we truly believe, I truly believe that, God doesn't inflict pain and agony and sorrows upon us. And, people will say that, well, the Bible says, God won't give you more than you can bear. That's not true. The Bible says God will give you the strength to get through anything that the world throws at you. Those are my words, but God doesn't test us, with to see how much we can bear, but God gives us the strength each day. And then verse 6 again, the Lord again speaks to Job out of the whirlwind. Gird up your loins like a man, and I will question you. Will you even put me, will you condemn me that you might be justified? Have you got an arm like God? Can you thunder with a voice like his? Deck yourself with majesty and dignity. And, and God just continues to go on with, with his righteousness, with God's, God is kind of asking Job, are you going to condemn me so that you might be justified? We can't do that. We can't point fault at God. And this is, this book of Job, shows us that there's suffering in the world. And, God doesn't cause that suffering, but he gives us the strength, and he's there, and he knows what's going on. And the last part of chapter 40, verse 15, look at Behemoth, which I made. It eats grass like an ox. Its strength is in its loins. It makes its tail stiff like a cedar. Its bones are tubes of bronze. Its limbs like bars of iron. This is a strong animal, one to be feared, and just, more more of what God has done, you know, and it's just, you know, this behemoth, or however you say that, you know, it's a kind of a mythical monster, you know, like, you know, the Leviathan that is talked about, the sea monsters, you know, but it's God has created, and that we are a part of God's creation, and how would we answer to God when God asks us these questions? And I really truly do look at a lot of these questions that what God is asking in Job, and things he's pointing out to Job, is that it's kind of done a little bit playfully, but yet very truthfully on God's part, is that we are much less than God. And you know, with God as being the creator and our caretaker, we learn to trust him. And I don't know, I haven't looked at tomorrow to see if we finish the book of Job or not, but I think this book is an interesting one to look, and you know, it helps us to see our lives maybe in a little bit different manner, that, you know, maybe everything isn't so bad, you know, yeah, but through it all to trust that God is with us.